Hi everyone, Dan McJunkin here with Residential Estimating Service. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. Today our topic is who owns the copyright to my new home? It's a valid question and most people don't ask it until it's a little too late once they're committed to the project. It doesn't matter who owns the copyright, it just matters whether they can get the home built. But the question is a valid one and asking it is something that a builder needs to do. This is one of the questions I had earlier in my home building career is can we rebuild the same plan we just built? And if so, what do we have to do? Some of the very first homes that my dad built, we bought from a local architect. I still remember they were all little bitty plans printed on these 3x5 cards, and he'd go through and he'd find one that worked. Now, that system doesn't work today. Today we have a lot of opportunities to buy plans online. We have opportunities to meet with architects and building designers, and heck, we can even buy software that will let us draw a plan that we can build. Now, not all municipalities will accept that plan, but some will. Most want a plan to be engineered. Well, everything that is drawn by somebody else comes with a license agreement if you're going to build it, and that's because they own the copyright. If you buy software and you design your own house, and I'm sure you might be capable of doing that. If you do, then you will own the copyright to that plan, unless there's some reason why the software designer feels like they own the license. In most cases, most people will start out at an online plan room and they'll look at plans that are in the range of maybe $700 to $1,500, and they'll question, why does it cost that much? And then they'll consider going to a local architect or building designer, and they'll find out the cost is so much significantly higher. Then they'll ask, is there any way we can lower the cost? And what a building designer or architect might do is to direct them to plans that they've already drawn that the builder can license and build at a far reduced rate. So either way, you're going to pay money to build a house if somebody else has drawn it. If the house is engineered, that engineering is very specific to that address. There's no liability coverage for you if you use it elsewhere. And in fact, it is that engineering design would also be covered by copyright. So the question is, as a builder, if you're paying for the plans, are you really paying for the plans? Why can't you just build that house a dozen times? And the answer is because a copyright holder, copyright law itself governs intellectual property. Any created work is intellectual property. Now, let me say I'm not a lawyer. I'm a building consultant. I do estimating. I talk to builders. I do training on home building. I'm not a lawyer. But when I speak, I'm speaking from my experience, my judgment, my understanding. But if you want to know how the law really is going to affect you and how it will protect you, talk to your attorney and consider this entertainment value and maybe some level of depth of understanding, but by no means am I here to provide you with legal advice, except the best legal advice is to stay out of problems, of harm's way. Comply with your understanding. In this case, we're talking about copyright law. Now, there's a lot you can find online and with an individual attorney that will help you understand copyright, but it boils down to this, that if you didn't create the work, the person that did owns the copyright. That means that they can control its sale, its use, its distribution. They can withhold it from the world, and they can present it to the world. And if you want to use a plan or an engineering that somebody else has created, then you need a license for that. And I'm going to leave engineering on the side because that's another matter altogether. Engineering is very specific to your job site conditions and the code locally that governs your construction. In this case, the design is not engineered. An architect can draw your home, and building designer can typically draw your home in most jurisdictions. The main thing is for you, the builder, is you need to know that you have the legal right to build that house. And that usually comes with a contract And in that contract, it will say, most likely, how you were able to use that plan, that set of plans. In the good old days, architects would include how many sets of plans they were going to sell you, inclusive of your right to use that plans. Because once again, everything was a profit center. They would literally print the plans. They'd give you 10 sets of plans. You would hand them out to your trades. You'd get them back from your trades so you could reuse them. These days, we are in an internet-centric world. Everything's online, online plan rooms, online distribution, online quotes going back and forth. But the bottom line is those plans that you receive, the architect, the building designer, might have to make up that loss in not giving you printed plans. And he might charge you for the right to distribute copies or PDF copies. If you want the CAD files, the actual CAD files, they'll charge you extra for that. If you do want printed copies, most plan rooms and architects can provide that for an additional cost. So the question is, what if you find a set of plans on the side of the road? Can you build it? Well, clearly the answer is no. Not legally, at least. And when I say legally, there's no home building police that are going to come knock on your door and complain or maybe take you to jail. Typically, copyright law, in my understanding, I'm not a lawyer, it's a matter between two parties. That I found out you violated my copyright. I'm going to tell you to stop. I'm going to tell you what the remedy is going to be to keep me from taking further action. Usually the remedy is pay me for the license for the plan. If you refuse, then you might end up in court. If it's really egregious, there are criminal penalties for in my understanding, for criminally violating copyright, but that's a totally different subject. In the case of home building, it really comes down to this question, such as this example. My friend built a house. I loved their house. They gave me the plan. I'm going to go down to the local copy shop and get copies made. I'm going to start building this house on Tuesday. In most municipalities, you've got to give them what are called wet stamped plans so to get through the permitting process, meaning that the architect that designed that plan is going to stamp it with original ink and sign it in original ink, and that's what you provide to your municipality to get a permit. Failing that, let's say you don't live in a municipality, there's nobody looking over your shoulder, you're going to build a house. Well, you're still responsible for paying that license fee, and this is the scenario that really brought it home for me. There's a friend of mine who is an architect, and he was telling me one of his war stories. You know, everybody in the industry has a war story about something that happened in their career that they love to share. This was his. He said, yeah, I was driving in a community. I stopped and I saw a house I had drawn. He said, I'm a small shop and I knew where every one of my houses were built. And I had never been to this job site. I don't know who the builder was, but I found out. So he approached the builder and he threatened the builder. He said, you got that house built. That is my design. You do not have the license to build it. And I'm going to make you tear that house down unless you pay me my fee. Well, tearing a house down is something the builder wouldn't just do voluntarily. He would have to go to court for that. Most people want to avoid going to court, including this architect. All he wanted was to be compensated for the use of his design. Now, in this case, the builder did just pay him for the design, and of course the question of tearing the house down never really went anywhere. But the question of fair use is one that a lot of people think, well, I found it on the side of the road. I don't know who drew it. Well, then don't use it. That's really the fairest use, because honestly, you could find out who drew that plan, and their name is going to be on that plan. Now, if you draw the house yourself, build away. Just be aware that if you simply carbon copy somebody else's plans and put your title block on it, you're still violating somebody's copyright. And as such, you could someday have that architect knock on your door saying, hey, I want to be compensated for my work. And then it's a matter of lawyers getting in a room and they fight it out. And then there's either go to court or you settle out of court, nobody wins. So the main thing is know what your rights are. Now, when you do license a plan, let's say you go to that online plan room and you like a set of plans, you say, I'm going to buy that set of plans. They're going to have an agreement that you're going to sign. It's going to tell you all the parameters, and one is how many times you can build that house. It's going to be in there because that's how the plan room protects their plans, or the building designer or architect. That's how they protect their livelihood. And you want to read through that closely before you agree to it. And in fact, what I would say is, look, before I buy your set of plans, I need you to know this, that your plan was drawn for your region and I'm building in my region, and there's differences. And you're not the best architect or designer for my region. So instead of us going through a lot of rigmarole, I would like, with me trying to educate you on how things are done locally, I need to bring this to a local architect or designer so that they can kind of fix a few things. And as an estimating consultant, usually what I find is things like the type of siding, the way the overhangs are built, the rafters that might be on the plans. Maybe they were designed for snow load, whereas in my case, we worry more about hurricane than snow. You can do 2x6 rafters here, but in Wisconsin, it's going to be 2x10 or 2x12 rafters for snow load. So that's where engineering comes into play. But your architect can design your overhangs for your local region much better than a national architect would. So before you just go do that, you want to make sure that you're in compliance with that license agreement, and make sure that the purchasing person that or entity you're buying these plans through or from allows you to take their set of plans that you've legitimately licensed, you paid their online fee, and then you're just having a local draftsman or building designer or even an architect sweeten it up so that it works here. So these are things you want to nail down ahead of time. But let me take you to the training that you're going to find on my website, and that is residentialestimating.com. And that is this. If you go to a link right up here, it says podcast and learning. Go to learning topics and click on, in this case, building. And it'll take you to this particular page, who owns the copyright. And this is actually the first chapter, and it's a very meaningful chapter for, there again, it's a very meaningful chapter for the basics of this subject, but I have more. So as I said, I do training and I do offer online learning. And one of the things that I offer you here is to go to my website called The Builder Coach. Now, The Builder Coach is where I'll have a number of these. And this one, you'll see that it's broken down by modules. Those effectively are chapters. And I give you a free one, and this is the one that I have on my residential estimating website page. And basically, this is what it's going to look like. And at the end, there's a quiz. That's a simple quiz, but it gives you the confidence to know that you've understood the subject of what's being talked about and how you're going to use that. So once again, I hope you'll take advantage of this. It's really, if you did nothing more than read what I have on the residential estimating page, that's going to be a great thing for you. It'll really move you to a new level of understanding, and I hope you do. I do appreciate you taking the time to stop by and hear what I have to say. If you find other things here that will help you, I sure hope you'll take advantage of that. As an estimating consultant, what I do is I work with people that want to know the quantities that of material that they're going to need, and that's the big consulting practice that I do there, is that I go through your plans. We talk to you about the anomalies, those things that your trades may not understand, or maybe things that are confusing between the engineering and the plan, so we can get it straightened out. But what I do is I provide you with a list of materials, both as a lumber takeoff or a takeoff for other materials, that you can just send to the suppliers and get a quote. But it also comes to you in the form of a material management plan with a lot of detail, a lot of discussion, memorializing those things that we've talked about throughout that estimating and consulting activity. So once again, I hope that you'll give me a call if you have any questions. If you have a plan that you are going to be building, takeoffs are very cost effective. Because of the way that it works with the material management plan, it can really benefit you. You're going to need one to bid your lumber anyway. And I'll be glad to help you that way. If you are struggling or confused about home building construction, I do private consulting, certainly can work with you there. And of course, at the website, thebuildercoach.com, you'll find a lot of resources there, including the builder checklist, which is going to take you through a checklist on most of the categories of home building to make sure that before you pay a trade that the work is actually done. I have lessons there that for members that tell you how to punch out a frame. That's something that nobody learns this in school. You got to learn it in life. And I can tell you the most efficient way to make sure the home is built according to those plans and engineering that you paid for. A lot of other stuff there that I hope you'll take a look at. And just so you'll know, if you're a residential estimating customer, I give you free access to the gold level, including the builder checklist, which is really my signature training. I hope you'll take advantage of that. Once again, Dan McJunkin, thanks again for visiting, and I hope to see you building your next house.